It's a problem. And I'm pleased when a new teacher comes and says, I haven't worked in a place that's so organized. That's good, because it makes me think, okay, I'm making it a conducive environment. So work hard at that, not on your own. Not on your own. I'm coming now to teams in this, not quite the next one. We come to teams. All right, curriculum leadership is another whole conference all on its own. But you, as the principal, have to lead the learning in the school. You are the lead learner, and you must lead learning. So you have to know the CAPS document for all the phases. You can't know the content of every single one, especially in the high schools. But you have to know what is required in assessment, because then you can buffer, which is one of the next headings, when the department is asking you for things that are not required. If you don't know your documents, you can't actually lead correctly. So you need to monitor, you need to control, but you need to control what's important, and not get focused on the things that are not important. So when you budget, when you have school values, when you have teachers' time, when you have learners' time, when you have teacher talk, when you have principals' knowledge, all of this should be focused on how do we lead learning better in the school. So you need the budget that supports learning. The time of the teachers focused on learning. Don't interrupt teaching time. Don't let them go to this concert, that concert, and the other concert during school hours. Don't let that get eroded. The maths teachers will complain anyway if you do. Okay. Obviously, professional development comes in there, and then accountability. You've got to hold the teachers accountable. So they need to know what they have to do. That's the expectations. They've got their curricular documents. But don't nitpick on things that are not going to make learning better. This I always say, and I say to GDE officials, how will this improve teaching and learning in the school? If they can't give me a good answer, we have a stalemate. So make sure that you keep focused, accountable for what you have to deliver, and you deliver to the very best of your ability, and all the children as well. Okay, to delegate, here is my dog balancing all the treats on his nose. It's not possible. So you can't hold all the treats and keep them all to yourself. So all the praise and everything that you might get, you can't keep to yourself. Nor can you handle all the obligations. So you have to delegate. It's quite a hard thing to learn. I've delegated so well, I'm actually superfluous. It's true. It's not good. It's been necessary because I have been away from school. But yes, that's got to the point. Now I am about to leave the school, so we have got to a point where in fact they can all do it very well without me. But you've got to start slowly when you start with your delegation, because you've got to do it within the realms of the people's competence, and you've got to give the correct support to enable them to do it to the point where they can do it independently. And then they get very independent and make an announcement. I had to leave school a bit early on Thursday, and somebody made an announcement that the girls could not wear tracksuits the next day, which we allow on very cold days. And then in assembly there's an announcement, all those who are wearing tracksuits, please stay behind. So I said to the deputy, one of them who probably was the responsible person, I said, why aren't they allowed to wear the tracksuit today? It's the coldest morning this winter. And she had her answer, which I didn't accept really, but I delegated it so far. And I couldn't bring it back. So it's a tricky one, but you need to do it because you can't do it all. And people have to grow. And if you hold everything, you're stopping other people from learning. So you really, really do have to give out. And there's a whole literature on shared leadership, distributed leadership. It is worth reading. It comes to teams. Be very careful of teams when there is no accountability. Because everyone can sit there and be part of the team, but nobody takes responsibility for the decision except you. And in fact, you want them to be accountable for their participation. So make sure that they are accountable in the teamwork. And I have a saying in my school, no two-headed monsters. So when we are assigning a project, let's say, and then two very enthusiastic people say, we will do it, be careful. You will say, they just know I don't have no two-headed monsters, so which one of you will be the official person? You can certainly work together, but I will liaise with one. Who will it be? And that's the person I hold accountable. No two-headed monsters, or 3 or 10-headed monsters. It's who's in charge of something, and then you relate to that person and monitor it. You give the support to the one who then works with that particular other person or team. Policy, yeah. We have an enormous amount of policy. Much you don't even know because unless you're very old in the business, there's policy that came in before you came in. I see most people here have probably been around quite a while, but they bring in policy all the time, but all policy stays, and you've got to know all of this, but actually it came in before you got there, and that's really tricky. So your school system needs to be such that you can in fact go and find what is policy. Now policy is of course national legislation, it's provincial legislation, and then it is circulars. Memoranda have a little bit of a disputable sort of nature, but memorandums usually interpret circulars or legislation of some sort. But you've got to know the policy. And CAPS, for instance, is policy. It's legislated. There's nothing you can do about it. We can't argue about it. We can fight it, we can resist it, we can complain about it, we can ask for round tables to discuss a review of it, but it's law. It's the same as you must stop at the red light, and you're not a taxi driver, so you do stop at the red light. And you do have to implement it. And the Western Cape is taking action against teachers because the language teachers down there, some of them have decided there's too much assessment, which is true. So they've decided not to do it, some of it. And now Western Cape is in fact charging those teachers. And they're entitled to do that. It might be unreasonable, but they're entitled to do it because it is policy. So we've got to be very careful with policy and how we resist it. But do know it. One of the most important things that you have to know is anything to do with finance. And if you go to any of the other talks, Cecil's or Wally's, he will tell you how people get into trouble with finance all the time. It's a tricky one. You need a committee, if I were principal, I would have, well, if I were principal, I am principal. I don't have anything to do with the actual money. I never touch any money. Everything has gone through a process before I finally sign it off. It's gone through committees and so on. I do have a problem with 3 quotes for things that they're supposed to be wanting 3 quotes for. By the way, the draft policy said anything over R1. I mean, that is just so ridiculous. But we fought that policy and it's died. Don't know where it's gone. That was the draft. But be careful with finance, because that's where you will get into trouble. And if somebody doesn't like you, that's where they will start. And there's going to be something wrong. There will be something wrong because it's just so hard to stick to. But you have your structures, you have to have your policy. You do your very best to stick to the rules there, so that you are not going to land up in trouble. But we need to protect teachers from reinterpretation of policy that creates more work. And that happens a lot of the time, especially with assessment, and that we are fighting at a national level at the moment. There is policy, but now they want to have all this pre-moderation, moderation, post-moderation, and who knows where else it's going to go. The common assessments and all the rest is in fact interpreting policy, but it's actually creating more work. The union actually challenged one circular and had it withdrawn because it was on the basis it was affected teachers' workload. So we need to resist, and we need to help our teachers. If they've got subject facilitators which are demanding unreasonable things that are not required by CAPS, the teachers must challenge. But you can't challenge if you don't know your policy. And so we call this buffering. It's kind of protecting from unreasonable expectations, unreasonableness. In the end, you have to deliver, because the quality of what you deliver empowers you. 10. Okay, that's good. And where in policy, look for gaps. This has been one of my main things in my last, 30 years now. I have an LLB degree, so a law degree. It has enabled me to read law and find gaps. You need to find the gaps where it's not stated, because you can then operate in the gaps. There are spaces sometimes where it's not specified. I'm going to take issue with school-based assessment. School-based assessment means school-based assessment. Doesn't mean provincial-based assessment. Doesn't mean district-based assessment. It says in the policy school-based assessment. We can challenge that legally, but nobody wants to do it. The union would have to do it, and it's actually not so much a union issue. It's actually curricular, and it's for consultation rather than negotiation. But you get the idea that don't just sit back and take everything. And be very, very careful of the heads of department who are so keen to do what subject facilitators want them to do, because it's good for them. But they're putting more work on their teachers and themselves. Be careful. Buffer, help, ask questions. And this goes back to communication. Be in touch. I have meetings, so let's say there's a cluster meeting for subject heads, and off they all go. Then I have a meeting after that. I call them all back and say what was said. And we go through what was said, because then I will find out what was said. Is it actually correct what was said? Are they entitled to say what was said? One of the latest ones that has come back now from moderation is that the grade 12 learners, and I suppose it's going to filter down the